I'm your host, Sebastian Saracito, here today with CEO and Managing Director, Dr. Camile Farah, with Optiscan Imaging. So thank you for being with us today, Camile. Just a quick rundown of how this works. So I'll hand over to Camile in a few seconds. He'll run through a presentation, then I invite everyone who has any questions to pop them just in the Q&A function. And then after the presentation is done, I'm sure Camile would be happy to answer any queries you might have. But yeah, over to you, Camile.
Thanks very much, Sebastian. Thanks very much, everyone, for attending. And I'll just share my screen. And hopefully you can see the screen now. Great. So thanks again for joining today, and I'd like to take the opportunity to update you on our activities at Optiscan Imaging, where we're working very hard to set the new standard for digital pathology and precision surgery. Rightio. Okay, just the standard disclaimer. And I'm Camile Farah, the CEO and Managing Director of Optiscan, and happy to have this presentation with you. As you'll see, we're also expanding into the US, and my responsibility extends to the US subsidiary. So if you don't know much about Optiscan, here's Optiscan in one slide. Optiscan spun out of Monash University in 1994, listed on the ASX in 97, and we're headquartered in Melbourne, where we basically undertake all of our R&D, our manufacturing, and our headquarter sales and marketing office activities. We're a small cap, currently at about 150 million, and we have a host of technologies that are patent protected, proven over time, which I'll explore with you. And we have validated products that we've brought to the market with some large strategic partners, namely in the context of Pentax and Carl Zeiss currently. We have an agile team. We're a small team of 25, and we run our full operations out of our plant in Melbourne. More recently, we've expanded into the US and set up a commercial hub in Minnesota as part of the burgeoning medical device and medical technology footprint there in the US. Essentially, what Optiscan does is that it's been able to miniaturize a very large piece of equipment known as confocal microscopy into a very small, clinically useful device that relies on tissue contact to produce real-time digital pathology images, essentially replacing the need for doctors to take biopsies and send them off into the lab and then wait for the answers to come back days, sometimes even weeks later. So our patent-protected technology allows doctors to image tissue in real time, essentially at 1,000 times magnification compared to what you would see, for example, in standard medical CT or MRI. But essentially, the simplest way of thinking about our technology is our ability to bring a microscope directly into the hands of a surgeon, something that they've never been able to have before, and to image microscopic structure in very fine, high resolution in real time. And that opens up a whole myriad of opportunities for treating doctors, for surgeons, obviously for patients, and for the health system at large. It also allows us to personalize the treatment that we offer patients if they're undertaking surgery, for example, if they've been diagnosed with a particular disease. And of course, it has significant efficiencies in the context of the health spend in the health system. So the core of our technology lies within this very simple concept of what we call fluorescence microscopy. We have what we call a single fiber technology, which is unique across many of these technologies. This is where our patents lie. And this is basically the core strength of our technology, producing the highest grade, highest resolution images. An additional feature of our technology is that we have lenses placed in the front end of our device. And of course, that allows us then to move the lenses backwards and forwards and allows us then to image through tissue. Again, a unique feature of our particular core technology compared to any competitor product on the market. This allows us to image through tissue, which is quite unique. No other technology allows you to do that for microscopic imaging. You'll see in the bottom right-hand side corner, this is a standard scope that a doctor might use, but instead of having a camera at the front end of that scope, we have installed our microscope, and it emits that blue light, and it's that blue light that we're able to capture in real time, process through our computer software, and generate images for the doctor to see in real time. So the best way of explaining this is to show you how it works. So this is a visual demonstration of one of our technicians applying a contrast agent into the inside of their mouth. They pick up the probe, they put it on the tissue with that tissue contact, and you can see on the screen instantly there are images of cells. Obviously, the doctor would need to be looking at these cells, and that's what they're trained to do. So they can see whether the cells are normal, whether they're abnormal, whether they're cancerous or not. And as you can see, there's no delay in the presentation of the image. Literally, as soon as the probe touches the tissue, the image is available. So that cuts down a whole myriad of time and difficulty for treating doctors and surgeons to obtain microscopic grade imaging in real time, instead of relying on either their palpation with their fingers or the naked eye, which obviously doesn't have as much magnification. So I articulated earlier some of the differences between our technology and the closest competitor. This is the same tissue being imaged through two different approaches: our single fiber approach up the top, and our closest competitor with what they call a bundled fiber down the bottom. And you can very clearly see the image resolution, the quality and the accuracy that we can obtain with our imaging modality versus the closest competitor. And you might say, well, why is that important? It's very important when doctors want to make a diagnosis. They require high-grade, high-resolution images to make an accurate diagnosis. And obviously, if it were you, you would want that accurate diagnosis made. Also, when the treating surgeon is removing tumor, which is a big part of our focus area, you would want to make sure that the surgeon can see all the tumor cells in real time and be able to remove those tumor cells with a high degree of confidence and accuracy. So seeing the imaging in real time at high grade, high resolution, high accuracy is therefore very important for the adoption in the clinical and surgical spaces. Importantly, we can distinguish normal from abnormal tissue using our technology. It's basically another way of looking at the human body. And very importantly, our imaging platform produces quality images equivalent to this current standard of care, which is what we call histopathology. This is where the surgeon would remove that tumor, send it off to the pathology lab. It gets processed and stained, and then a report gets sent back to the doctor after the pathologist has looked at the slides. With our approach, this can all occur instantaneously. We can basically have surgeons and pathologists doing all of this work in real time, and I'll explore a little bit of that in a couple of slides. So very importantly, our technology has been used in a whole myriad of applications: in neurosurgery, in breast surgery, in GI endoscopy, in oral medicine, and for general research purposes in the life sciences. And we have a significant number of key opinion leaders talking about our technology. But importantly, we have about 150 publications over the years explaining the utility of the technology and the benefit to patients and to hospital systems. And we continue to explore new modalities and new approaches for the use of our platform. Importantly, over the last couple of years, we've embarked on a transformation journey within the business. We've moved away from being an OEM provider where we manufacture the components of the technology, and now we're producing medical devices with our own branding, our own Optiscan labeling, and now we're able to produce whole medical devices in their own right. So we have a suite of products that we're working towards for various clinical applications in oral imaging, in surgical imaging, in pathology, replacing the standard analog practice in pathology with a digital equivalent that provides pathologists with additional insight and speed. We're working towards creating another flexible endoscope to re-enter that flexible endoscope market, which is a burgeoning market. And of course, we're also very keen to make our technology available in the non-human area with pets, in particular cats and dogs, given the significant health problems they have in the vet space. Importantly, as we expand our hardware portfolio, we're also focused on expanding the diversity and the product range in the context of software and other applications for the business moving forward to both make the adoption of the technology easier, but also to increase revenue streams as we diversify. So we're looking at intraoperative telepathology services that we're building in our own right. So essentially, you can think of that as Netflix for pathology, where we can stream these images that we obtain in real time. We can stream them anywhere in the world with no delay. So it allows that opportunity for doctors to work across different jurisdictions, across different time zones. And of course, that creates accuracy when you've got a specialist in a particular area offering you that opinion, but also it creates opportunities for health systems to change the way that they practice. So they could centralize their pathology service, for example, using a telepathology streaming service. We're very keen to move into the AI-assisted diagnostic space, and we're building our own AI algorithms for the 3 applications that we're currently focused on, namely in oral imaging, breast imaging, and GI imaging. And that project is well underway in addition to that telepathology streaming service. So this is a partnership that we have with a Canadian software company where all of the IP and the resultant technology sits within the Optiscan umbrella. We're working to diversify our flexible technology, so with flexible endoscopy, and moving to a open system where basically our platform can be used with any endoscope manufacturer. So if a doctor has a particular brand of a flexible endoscope, they can easily then insert our microscope into their scope and basically avail themselves of our technology. So we're trying to make sure that we address the largest proportion of doctors using a particular approach and making sure that that addressable market is as large as possible. So this is a significant innovation for us, where we'll continue to miniaturize our probes to get them into smaller and tighter spots and obviously open up other opportunities. I'll touch on the robotics in a couple of slides, but we're moving further to adapt and to modify our platform to be used with robotic systems. And this is, again, very important because of the move away from open surgery for a greater majority of cases, and also laparoscopic surgery more and more into the robotic space. And ultimately, we'd like to also then be able to move into image-guided molecular surgery, where particular biomarkers for particular tumors or particular tissues can be then used, again, increasing accuracy and precision for doctors and patients. So what does this market look like? Currently, we have a life sciences product that we sell into the Asia Pacific through a distributor. We have our business development team in the US also selling this life sciences product, which is aimed specifically at medical research institutions, big pharma, and hospitals looking at doing research. But we're expanding our applications in the clinical sphere, both in human and in small companion animals. And that's where the greater majority of our focus will be moving forward, looking at all of the efficiencies that can be gained in the hospital sector. Of course, we have significant applications for our technology, but at this stage, we are mostly focused on the oncology or cancer space. We believe that a significant number of problems that we face in this particular area can be resolved with our technology. So that ability to obtain instantaneous real-time diagnoses, the ability to share digital information across platforms between different geographies, but different practitioners, surgeons and pathologists, again, working together. There's a significant cost to the way that we do pathology currently, and we think that we can bring that cost down using digital platforms with an approach that can be used across different types of cancers. So our platform is agnostic to the type of tissue and the type of cancer that you're working on. So you can have the same device basically used for different types of tumors. And of course, because it's digital, it allows us to build digital algorithms to help doctors make decisions in real time and to improve outcomes for patients, something that is currently not possible with analog ways of doing pathology with glass slides. In the context of the clinical applications and the markets that we're looking at, we're basically currently focused on three particular types of cancers: head and neck, oral cancers, breast cancers, and GI cancers. And between them, they are essentially about 30% of the cancer load in the US alone. And of course, you can make similar determinations for other geographies. There's a significant cancer spend in the healthcare system in the US on these three types of cancers, amounting to about 160 billion. And of course, the number of procedures that are undertaken within each of these designated areas is increasing with the increased number of tumors being diagnosed and other pathologies that we can use our technology for. So it's a very large addressable market space for us. I've touched on surgical approach. Early in the year, we unveiled this new surgical device. The first indication for this surgical device will be in breast cancer surgery. And we're currently underway with a trial at the Royal Melbourne Hospital looking at using this technology for breast cancer removal. And we'll also be expanding that into the US with another study early in 2025. Importantly, however, the surgical space is only one part of a potential addressable market. The digital pathology and the digital health market is expanding. As I alluded to earlier, that robotic surgery space is also expanding, and there are more indications for robotic surgery that we want to be part of as that market continues. With AI and with telehealth increasing, we saw that specifically after COVID. We also believe that there's a burgeoning market there for us to tap into with the right configuration of device, hardware, and software together. Importantly, in relation to expansion into these clinical areas and also different jurisdictions, the partnerships that we build and the collaborations that we build will underpin that success. We announced earlier in the year that we've partnered with the Mayo Clinic in the US. The Mayo Clinic is the #1 ranked hospital system in the US. Specifically, we're looking to work with them in the breast cancer space, but also in the robotic space. So we've inked an agreement with them to build a robot-compatible imaging system based on our imaging platform that allows them the utility of all the benefits of our system with an integrated robotic-assisted minimally invasive surgical platform. So that's well underway. Both surgeons from the Mayo and engineers from Optiscan are working to build that system as we speak. Obviously, there'll be other opportunities for us to explore together. Here are some of them. So in the context of robotic-assisted surgery, prostate cancer, lung cancer, and colorectal cancer account for a greater number of the types of surgeries now been undertaken with robots. And there are a whole myriad of robotic-assisted surgical benefits for patients, but also for doctors and the health system at large. And as we develop our robotic platform, we can then tap into each of these cancer types and help improve outcomes for patients with earlier detection, but also better surgical outcomes with minimal residual tumor being left behind. I alluded to the vet space earlier. Strikingly similar sorts of cancers occur in cats and dogs. You'll see that two common cancers that we're working on in oral and in breast occur in both cats and dogs. Again, a couple of months ago, we inked a MOU with the University of Minnesota Vet College to work with them on exploring the utility of our technology in both the diagnosis and the treatment of various vet medicine conditions, with a particular focus on cancer and, again, alignment between our human interests and the companion animal space. It's a very large market with a very significant spend on healthcare costs in the context of the companion animal space. So a little bit more about the company. The company is well led with a very strong, seasoned and experienced board and a strong management that we continue to expand both locally and overseas. We've got an increasing number of staff in our Melbourne office, but also an increasing number of staff in our Minnesota and US offices, and that will continue to occur as we continue to focus our efforts on the US in the first instance. We do have a growing team, everything from the engineering staff to the technical staff who build our units to sales and marketing, and again, across multiple different jurisdictions. It's important to have that breadth, but also the depth within our team. You'll see the expansion into the US is a central focus for us. We have an outsourced business development team in Europe, mostly focused on Germany and Switzerland, where there's a greater amount of interest in our life sciences products. And we sell our life sciences product through distributors in China. So we are essentially tapping into a very large market where we're essentially trying to disrupt this precision surgical space and the digital pathology space. We believe there's great opportunities for us to do that as the technology is proven out in each of these clinical areas we're working on. Importantly, we're not focused just on the hardware. We believe that the greater penetration will occur through software as a medical device and the AI applications that our digital platform allows us. You'll see there's been a significant uptick in the share price over the last year or so, and we're currently sitting around 20 cents a share, and we obviously see significant value moving forward in that as we bring some of these milestones together and hit those targets and also bring some of the clinical devices into the clinical space. Importantly, Optiscan is debt-free. We operate using equity and non-dilutive grants to fund our operations, both our strategic growth and our R&D development, which we continue to undertake in-house. And we're projecting significant revenues over the next 5 years as we deploy our first clinical devices and, of course, then expand those clinical indications with new units and new hardware and software over the 5-year span. Importantly, however, we are on a transformation journey. We're in the middle of that transformation journey currently, sitting in mid-2024. We'll continue to expand our operations in the US over the next year or so. We continue to work on refining production efficiencies, but also the R&D of our new technology, whether it be in robotics or in flexible endoscopy. And then, of course, we're focused on making sure that we can transition our technology through the clinical pipeline and through FDA approval in the US. On that, this is a snapshot of where we are currently with our clinical applications, our product development, and our regulatory approvals. We're currently seeking regulatory approval for the breast device that will be followed very shortly afterwards with an oral-specific device. We will be talking more about a laboratory pathology device towards the end of the year and early 2025. Which will unveil to the market. We're quite advanced with our telepathology streaming service. That's in MVP stage currently. We announced that earlier in the year, so we expect to bring that to conclusion in around mid-2025. We continue to work on prototyping and creating our next generation flexible endoscope. We brought the first one to market in the early 2000s with a partnership with Pentax. And this time around, we'll bring that to market under our own label. We continue to work on our AI and machine learning applications, and they'll run in parallel as we continue to bring each of those clinical applications that I mentioned in oral, breast, and GI at the same time. So the software would be ready 6 to 12 months after each of the hardware devices and the clinical data are required for FDA submission for those. And as I alluded to, we have 2 very important collaborations in the US, in Minnesota, one with the Mayo Clinic working on the robotics application, and the other one in the vet space with the University of Minnesota. And they're both in the prototyping stage now with a 2-year lead time to bring those to fruition. So Optiscan is pivoting essentially from being an OEM manufacturer to being a diversified, very focused business looking at medical device technology in its own right, expanding both its hardware and its software assets, and making sure that we're teaming up and collaborating and partnering with first-in-class clinical and research providers in the US and other jurisdictions. We do remain focused on the US market, given the breadth of that market, the adoption of technology, and the way that technology is used in their healthcare systems. And we're gaining and continuing to build momentum with our strategic initiatives, both from a commercial sense with our life sciences products, but also obviously moving forward with our clinical assets into the future. If you'd like to stay in touch, please do go onto our website, go onto the Contact Us page, input your information, and you'll be part of our email list. And as we update the market with any of our new initiatives and progress, obviously you'll be part of the recipients of that. So stay in touch. If you have any questions, please reach out on the email below. Once again, thanks for your interest. Happy to take any of your questions.
Thank you, Camile, for that. That was very insightful. We do have a lot of questions from the audience, so we'll try and smash through it for the half an hour that remains. But just to kick us off a bit, a few questions from the company. So your presentation clearly demonstrates how Optiscan's medical technology platform is already effectively bridging the gap between surgery and pathology. What are some of the key developments in the pipeline that will further bridge this gap?
Yeah, thanks for that question. Look, we're focused in two particular areas. One, to be available to the surgeon at the time of decision making, so what we call intraoperative surgical assessment, thereby really giving the surgeon that ability to make diagnoses on the spot and look at imaging, which typically they've never had available to them on the spot. But at the same time, we're making sure that we bring the various parts of the treatment team together. So we're bringing the pathology into the OR, something that hasn't occurred in the past, and we believe that's a significant deficiency in the way that we undertake healthcare currently. We want surgeons and pathologists to work together, but each of them doing what they're really good at doing. Our next platform, Reveal, our laboratory pathology device, will really be geared towards making sure that pathologists can also use this technology in their own laboratory. So the sample could still arrive from a hospital somewhere, but we would like to think that we can help pathologists change their workflow. So instead of undergoing the monotonous, routine, long-winded process that they typically have to go, which takes days to produce a glass slide, our technology will be available to pathologists in their laboratories, where they could use that technology to assess tissue instantly. They could give doctors decisions instantly, but also it helps them create their reports and their diagnoses in a short amount of time, creating efficiencies for them. So we do believe that the next device that we reveal will really be aimed at the pathologist. Our first one here, the InView, was aimed at surgeons, and as we move forward, we'll try to bring them closer together.
Brilliant, thank you for that. So we just have a few questions from the audience. First one is, the company seems to be chasing lots of potential use cases and indications, from veterinary surgery to pathology to robotic surgery to the CSIRO partnership. Which device/indication combination does the company anticipate will achieve FDA approval and commercial returns first?
Yes, thank you. So it may seem that there's multiple pathways being investigated at the same time, but there's a lot of studies and also assessments occurring in parallel. So I alluded to the issue around breast, first of all. The breast application with our open surgical device, the InView, is occurring at the same time that we're looking at using robotics for breast. And at the same time, we're looking at using our vet approach for breast cancer in companion animals. There's a lot to be gained by doing these sorts of things in parallel, and we'll continue to do that. In relation to which device or platform we anticipate will achieve regulatory clearance first, we do believe that it will be the InView system for open breast cancer surgery. That's what we're pursuing currently with the FDA. We're in talks with the FDA around what a study design looks like, what the endpoints are. And that's the one that we've really focused on in relation to building out the platform that now is complete, but also putting that into the hands of surgeons to use. So that's the one we anticipate will come first. We believe the oral imaging platform will come second after that, and then we'll start to move into robotics and flexible endoscopy with the GI over a 2, 3, and longer time frame.
Thank you. Thank you. We have another one here. We'll try and quick fire these. So you demonstrated the use of the topical agent with your device. Can you please comment on the progress of getting a topical agent approved with the FDA?
Yes, thanks for that question. Look, the topical approach was an approach that we started working on a couple of years ago that was seen at the time to be a more straightforward or an easier entry into the market with our technology. The problem with that, unfortunately, has been some changes in the legislation in the US passed by the US Congress, where they've basically changed legislation around contrast agents. And we've had to adapt and to then pivot based on our understanding then of those changes. We believe that the surgical approach with IV use of contrast agents is more than likely a more straightforward approach. It's commonly used in the surgical space with the contrast agent that we would like to use for our devices. We are pivoting all of our devices towards that space. We won't move away completely from the topical. We still believe that's a very large market that we'd like to tap into. It does require some additional work on our end and some negotiation with the FDA. So we've just basically put the surgical devices and the surgical application ahead of topical at this stage, but we'll continue to work with the FDA on both.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Given the company now has that InView device, is there any point now pursuing FDA approval for InVivage for oral surgical use cases? Can the company please provide a clear and frank evaluation on the status of InVivage and the company's now prioritization of it relative to InView?
Yes, thanks again for that question. Yeah, as I alluded to in the previous answer, we are prioritizing InView for a whole myriad of reasons. One, because of that issue around contrast agents. We want to basically make sure that we can meet the FDA requirements in the simplest form possible. And using the IV fluorescein does make it easier for us to actually have that conversation with the FDA. The issue around topical application of a contrast agent requires additional studies that the FDA has made very clear to us in our previous conversation in relation to InVivage. As I said, we'll continue to work with the FDA to understand further what those studies look like. But at this stage, the surgical approach for either oral or breast seems to be more straightforward. We will continue to pursue those. The InVivage is built to be used for both topical and surgical approaches. So all of the hard work that we've put into developing the InVivage is not lost. As I said earlier, we'll probably just pursue the InVivage about 6 months behind the InView. And that's just because of the simplicity of talking to the FDA about the breast application ahead of the oral application currently. Thank you.
Cheers. So we have another one here. What is the training data size required to train an AI model for the breast, oral, and GI indications? Does Optiscan have this data already?
Optiscan has a significant amount of data for both oral and breast, and we're using those two data sets to build our current AI. So the algorithm for the oral application is already underway. We have perfected that over a 6-month period. Obviously, with AI, it requires a significant large data set to perfect the ultimate answer. So you can build an algorithm, but you then need to test it over many iterations. So we'll continue to accumulate data and continue to feed that into the algorithm to perfect that. That's a bit more advanced with oral. Then we have the breast data that's coming in from our previous breast study, and then the breast study that we've highlighted to the market in relation to the Royal Melbourne. As that data comes in, we'll continue to feed that data through our algorithm for breast. The data for GI is a little bit different. We will be building a new GI device and collecting the data as we basically test and prototype that device at the same time. Obviously, that is a couple of years in the making. So the design of our studies currently take into account that the data will be accumulated as we develop the prototype. And again, we build the AI accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple more to wrap us up. So where does the company anticipate their next lot of funding will come from, and when will this be required?
Yeah, thanks for that. Look, we're sitting quite well currently in relation to funding. The capital raise that we had last year raised 16.7 million, taking into account some of the clinical studies that we needed to undertake in relation to oral and breast, some of the R&D developments in relation to GI. So we think we're okay for the next 12 to 18 months with all of those projects budgeted for. The additional work in relation to the vet space and the robotic space basically won't consume any more cash burn in relation to our activities. We're running them, as I said earlier, in parallel. There's significant efficiencies for us in doing that. And our cash burn at this stage remains the same. Our runway is about 18 months. So that takes into account the clinical studies that we've got both here in Melbourne, but also planned for the US in the context of the InView device. So ultimately, obviously, we're looking at the market again, supporting our capital raising activities. What we're hoping that the share market is seeing and our investors and shareholders are seeing is that we're now hitting those milestones that we're putting ahead of ourselves and moving really into that very focused area of getting the FDA clearances for very specific applications as we build the hardware devices, bring them to clinical trials, but also build our software applications to follow that. Thank you.
Cheers. Thank you very much. And just last one to quickly wrap us up. Optiscan is talking up the value of collaborations like the Mayo Clinic. What do they bring to the table?
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, if it's not very obvious, we're a medical device company, so we know how to build the hardware platforms. We're building our own software. Obviously, what we can't do is test those assets in a clinical space without clinical collaborators. So what we need to move through the regulatory cycle is very good, robust clinical data. And to do that, we really need very good clinical partners. So the relationship that we've built with the Mayo is really around making sure that we can get the best clinical data to put in front of the FDA. Likewise, we'll be doing that with the University of Minnesota. We've also, not to forget the collaboration we've got with the University of Mainz in Germany in relation to the prototyping and clinical testing of our next generation flexible GI scope with Professor Kieslich, who worked with us on the first iteration of that. We really need those clinical collaborators to test the technology, to accumulate that clinical data, to allow us then to submit that to the regulator. So that's where those clinical collaborators come in. They bring their know-how, their patient pool, their services, and of course, their infrastructure, both physical and human. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you for that, Camile. I think that's going to wrap us up for today. Thank you so much for your time. That was really insightful for, I guess, current and prospective shareholders. Guys, thank you for coming in and watching the webinar. Really appreciate the interactiveness today. It was great. Just so we can leave it off on a good note, is there anything that you'd like to add, Camile?
No, just if you're currently a shareholder in Optiscan, thanks very much for your ongoing support. If you're not and you're looking at investing, we believe this is the right time to get on board with Optiscan. We believe the future is bright and we don't want anyone to miss out. So thanks very much. Brilliant.
Thank you, Camile. Thank you, everyone, for coming along. If you want to view the recording, it is posted on YouTube, so you can watch it back at your leisure. But other than that, thank you very much. Thank you, Camile. Until next time.
Cheers, Sebastian. Bye-bye.